Hey guys, we are working on the big block Mopar tonight, finishing up the timing set and cover and getting the harmonic balancer on. A few steps here, should be pretty plug and chug. Got a little list here, so we'll go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, I guess 12 steps here. And we'll go through it together. And like we always do, learn something along the way, hopefully. First thing I guess we'll go over is the timing of the camshaft is all verified. That was in a previous video. So we're good to go there. And I just had installed this, kind of temporary as we went through and tried to go dot to dot, get the timing checked, and verify if we had to move the sprocket here. I have a special one that can be, advanced or retarded, but it turned out right on the 0 mark. We are okay. So check that video out if you're interested, and we'll get started with switching out this old bolt. I just had grabbed one that's from the engine teardown and temporarily assembled this. It is held in with a little dowel pin, and it's really tight, but you don't want the load on the dowel pin. So you got to make sure you have a nice cam bolt. I bought a new one from Hughes. This is the part number if you need one as well. If you can see that there. Comes with a nice washer. And we're going to go ahead and use a little bit of Loctite on this. Okay. There's a pretty generous hole in that washer there, but okay. Fair enough. You can use, I guess, permanent Loctite if you want. This stuff here is the medium strength, and I find that this is just a good all-around Loctite that I use on a lot of stuff. So I think it's going to be suitable for this. All right, let's set that down. Go ahead and get this started. Okay, get the cap on that bad boy so it doesn't dry out. And my book says 35 foot-pounds on this. So just snug it up a little bit with the ratchet. Don't know if you noticed, but I'm anticipating we're going to have quite a bit of torque. Oh, you can't see it here. I've got this bar back here on the back of the engine. I grabbed a couple of the flywheel bolts here. I guess it's kind of hard to see, but it's just a piece of metal. I mean, it's an old shelf bracket that I use to just, bolt onto the back of the crank there so that it comes up and hits the engine stand and won't rotate when we're torquing stuff. I doubt it's necessary for the cam bolt at 35, but the bolt that's on that harmonic balancer is like 135. Okay, let me even zoom in a little bit. Get this thing better angle. All right, how's that? Okay. So where were we? Just gonna snug that up a little bit, and then we'll get our torque wrench. That is a 5/8. Okay. And we're gonna go 35 on it. So I'm gonna start out, well, these aren't big numbers, so let's just see what this feels like at 22. Yeah, not much. All right, well, let's go all the way to 35 then. 30, 32, 34, 35. Right there, so 35 looks like on my wrench. Okay. Nice, okay. Double check it. Okay. That's good. It's Loctited, it's not going anywhere. Now, I did put some lube on the timing chain and gear set. I've got that stuff that you can hand apply. I also have this stuff here, which is a nice Moly lube. It says that it's, obviously to prevent friction and galling and wear during engine assembly, startup, or break-in. It is good for gears and bearings and, a variety of things. So the reason I picked it, though, is because it, it comes out like a small toothpaste tube, and you can just kind of work it down into the gear, okay? You can even come in from the back side and give it a little bit of a bigger squeeze, and it'll shoot right into there. I worked it in with the glove earlier. I did it the whole way around. So this thing's completely lubed, even put a little bit on the teeth themselves. So, you know, it's all going to be in an oil bath. Shouldn't be a problem, but there's probably more high points and sharp points in this whole assembly. You know, all these working parts and all these teeth. It's good to have some extra grease or lube on that, okay? What else? So we've got the bolt washer in. We lubed the gear set. The next thing, pipe plugs. So these engines have plugs in the galleys for the oil to the lifter bores, okay? So make sure those are in. I'm looking for my camera. I'm using my camera to videotape. Okay, so I was gonna grab the flashlight is what I was trying to say. But anyways, right in here, if you can see it, right in there, there's a pipe plug, and it is installed. Make sure those are in. You want to be able to build oil pressure when you fire it up. There's two back here too. See these guys? Okay. So don't forget to check your engine over. There's another hole there, I guess, but don't be confused by that. Down here is one for your the rod that goes to the fuel pump. I guess I could peel this tape off from when I was painting. But there's going to be a rod that goes in there and another plug, I believe, yes, and the fuel pump's going to go on here. So the holes are kind of hidden. We'll get to them eventually. So I got to peel all that tape off. All right. Now, before we get sidetracked, let's keep going. So the pipe plugs are in. We're good. Timing cover and gasket. So the gasket came out of my kit, the whole engine kit. And then I bought this Proform cover, and it came with the little timing tab as well. This particular one was black, and then I spray bombed it real quick with some orange. I thought about going black and maybe having black valve covers. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with valve covers yet. But if you want the same one, it comes with the seal installed. So that's kind of cool. So I have an extra seal that came with my kit, but this one has one installed. There it is. So we'll put a little oil on that. I don't know if you have to do it right this minute, but while I'm thinking of it, we'll go ahead and put some oil on that. And that way, when we get around to putting the harmonic balancer on, it's all lubed up, okay? So we got a little oil on that. That should be good. All right. And that's going to ride on dowel pins. Make sure those things don't have burrs on them or got gacked up when you're moving your engine block around. This lower hole on the timing tab is going to go onto one of those as well. So that'll all just self-align. It should be pretty easy. Okay. Next, oil slinger. Don't forget that. This one just helps throw extra oil, you know, all around the timing gear set when the engine's running. Okay. And it can only go on, you know, I guess obviously one way. There's a keyway for it. And I mean, although you physically could put it on backwards, I think if you did, you'd realize what was going on, because this thing would be, it's like kind of cup shaped. It'd be rubbing on the chain. So just to demonstrate wrong way, it'd be like this and rubbing on the chain. So you don't want that, of course. It'll chew that thing up. So put it on this way. Okay. And it'll bottom out there against the gear, and there's still a little bit of clearance to the chain. Let's come in from the side and take a look at that. See that? Right there. Okay, good. So that's your oil slinger. And get that on. Let's see what's next here. Our list that I covered up. Well, I said trial fit the cover, so what you probably want to do is make sure that those dowels and these holes fit good. You can see I popped some paint off of this in the corner just a little bit. I'll probably do some touch up, but that's because I went to trial fit it and it was actually a little bit snug. So I was wrestling with it a little bit and it was just filled up with paint, I think. That goes on nice and tight. This thing, hopefully it won't need to be bent out of the way, but as you would guess, it's going to be really tight up against the balancer. So that's going to go on here. Don't forget to put that on. And here's where the damper is going to ride. I keep calling it a balancer. I don't think that's actually the right name. You know, this engine is internally balanced, 68/440. So the whole rotating assembly is, you know, balanced internally, meaning the pistons and the rods and, you know, the wrist pins, the rings, everything that makes up those, they're balanced to each other. So they're all, you know, within, you know, a couple grams or something. And then the counterweights on the crankshaft are also, you know, drilled or filled to give the rotating assembly the dynamic balance that it needs with whatever pistons or rods and things you use. So I use stock rods and aftermarket pistons and rings. So at any rate, that is, I guess, what I know about the balancing. So what do we got here? Oil Slinger cover, the seal, we hit that with some oil. The timing tab we checked. Oh, you're going to need to find your bolts. I put some paint on those too, but there's 4 small ones here at the top and then 4 bigger ones down here. We'll check the sizes in a minute. Okay, I guess we'll get our gasket in place. That's the next logical thing. And I've got a little bit of RTV here, the Ultra Black gasket maker, Permatex. You know, I just buy all this stuff. This isn't anything that's sponsored, of course. I hear people always say that, but oil pans, timing covers. You'll see it at your local store. It's a name brand. You could probably use another brand. This thing looks like it's symmetrical, so it's a little bit flimsy. So I guess we're gonna put a little bit of goop on it and get it in place here. Hopefully it'll stay. If I just put a little bit of this on it, kind of using it like adhesive. Let's see what we get here. Okay. I'm not going to use much. You don't want a bunch of RTV floating around in inside your engine. So just a little bit here though. Okay. Something like that. All right. So get that sucker on there. And it also has the small holes for the dowel pins there. So that's kind of nice. The main thing you're doing is just getting it lined up so your cover goes on and hits the holes. Okay. It's looking pretty good there. And if you want to, you could go crazy, I guess, with the RTV. I don't know that it's necessary. It's a vertical seal. The one at the oil pan I'm a little more worried about. We're going to be a little bit more liberal with the black goop when we get down there. I guess I'll put just a little bit here to hold these corners. Okay. It's kind of flimsy. Felpro gasket. Should be a good one though. All right, there's that. Probably worth mentioning, I cleaned that surface off before I started the camera, just with some rubbing alcohol. And, you know, you just don't want any grit or grease or whatever in there, at least if you're using the Permatex so that it, you know, will set up nice. Okay, I guess we're ready for the cover. Get that up on the dowels. There we go. Bolt holes lined up. I'm going to grab these 4 bigger ones to get started. And get one in here. And we'll hit the this timing tab over on this side. Looks like just one of those big ones will hold that in. Now you could put oil on your threads or some lube to get good torque readings, but honestly, I don't know that these covers are that critical. I think the torque spec, in one of my books, it doesn't even have one. I've read online 10 foot-pounds, but man, that's not much. I don't even know if my torque wrench will be accurate that low. You could convert it to inch pounds, I guess, multiply by 12. So that'd be 120 inch pounds. I know people are really careful with the oil pan gaskets. We'll probably do that video next. And you don't want to, squish out the cork gasket. This one I think is going to be a little bit more robust. Okay. Let's go ahead and get this thing hand tight real quick. Okay, and then these need a bigger socket. Which one is that? Probably this one, 9/16. Yeah. It's good to do this timing cover first before the oil pan, because you see this bottom rail here. The oil pan is going to go into that, and otherwise it's kind of tricky to get that on. All right. So, I forgot to get this one hand tight. Okay, not putting much on them. It's kind of annoying to go back and forth. Different size sockets. I can see up here, I'm going to want to touch that up a little bit with spray paint. Maybe you won't see it with the, the water pump housing on. Okay. It's nice to have a good new cover. It's perfectly flat and it's going to seal perhaps better than reusing one. And if you got an old one, you're probably going to have to sandblast it and get it all cleaned up and paint it and everything. It's a little bit more work. It wasn't terribly expensive. Pay attention. Okay. All right. I think I'm good with that. I could check it with the torque wrench, but it's probably somewhere around 10 or 15. And it feels good to me. Okay. Now, the next thing, this balancer, or whatever you want to call it today, I put a timing tape on it. So this one has, I think it was Mr. Gasket brand. Yeah, right here is the package if you're interested in that. 1593. And that's the timing tape. Goes on in this direction. The instructions say to sand off the paint or take an emery cloth and get rid of all of your grease and grime. And, I had painted this, and honestly, it was kind of greasy when I started, so I cleaned it enough that I could paint it. I wasn't interested to go back down to that old metal. This is an original one. It was in good shape. It looks like the ring is still bonded, so I'm going to roll with this. It's probably good to put some lube on this. It's going to go on quite difficult, I think. So let me put a dot of oil on that. And it's held on with a, a torqued bolt. So we're not going to have trouble with it like coming off. A little bit of lube there. And also put some around here where it's going to interface with the that seal on the timing cover. So let's put a drop on that. Okay. That's nice and lubed. We know the keyway is good because our timing gear went on it. So don't drop this thing on the ground. It just barely sits on there before it starts to run into interference. Okay, well, I can see that the previous owner of this engine hit this with a hammer. That's not the right way to put one of these on, but this engine was definitely rebuilt somewhere along the way. This is probably rebuild number 2, I'm guessing. But here's a little trick. And I guess most everyone knows this, but a lot of the auto parts stores like O'Reilly's and AutoZone have these like free loaners. And by free, I mean you pay for them, but when you bring them back, you get your deposit or you get your money back. So this is the EverTough Harmonic Balancer Installer. And I just picked it up at O'Reilly's tonight. And, you know, if you look at it, you're like, hey, what the heck is going on there? But here, I'll walk you through it. I don't think it's too difficult. We'll figure this out. So, first of all, your bolt that goes in is super short, okay, the factory bolt. So it's not going to work to pull that thing on. So that's why you need a tool, or a longer bolt and a couple washers is a, you know, old school way to do it. But when this stuff is basically free, you might as well use it. So this part here is, you know, the main piece to it. And you want to grab the adapter that's the same size as your threads. So that's going to be this one here. And that just sits in the end like this, okay? And then there's a bolt that I spilled out, but that goes in like this, okay? And you just snug that up. And that's holding the end of this. I mean, the kit, you know, has a variety of these different sizes for all different engines, but that'll be the one that we need. And start that into your crank, okay? And if you want, I guess you could probably put your washer on there. If it'll fit, it probably won't. Nope, it won't. So you have to use the one that they gave you, but this one has a bearing. And what you're going to want to do with that, once you've got all those threads engaged into your crank, the big side, it's like a cup, goes that way. Okay, that's going to ride on the balancer. And then this other internal piece that has a bearing is what you're going to be pushing on so that there's not a ton of friction there. Okay. And let's see, where's the big nut? There it is. All right, we'll see how this goes. All right, so I probably should have grabbed the wrench or something to go on that, but I did not. So maybe I'll grab a pipe wrench. Let's see. Not sure what the size is. All right. Sorry for that. But it is a very big nut. In fact, it might be the same size as the one that you use to put your final bolt in. But the thing is that's not going to fit on there. So, plan B is your trusty old wrench. So we're going to go with that. Or a crescent wrench. Okay, so maybe I'll move the camera so we can see if we're making progress putting this thing on. About maybe like here. Lower it down a little bit. Try that. Okay, well, first of all, you're going to have something to keep it from spinning, and that's the 14 millimeter. Okay, I think it's going. Oh yeah. It's nice and slick there. Now, if I remember correctly, the balancer has a little lip on it, so it only goes on so far. But I'm gonna stop and take this out and check it and see how it looks. I guess while I'm doing that, we'll think about what this thing does. You know, so it's internally balanced, but there's still a bunch of vibration that's happening, you know, from basically the firing of all your cylinders. So every time you have, you know, firing going on, and you've got, you know, every revolution 1843, another revolution 6572, you know, so you've got these whatever fourth order vibrations and other ones that are, you know, making this whole engine buzz, if you will. So this gets rid of that. It's kind of that rubber damper in there, and the even better ones are those fluid dampers that have some type of I don't know if it's truly a liquid or if it's more of a silicon-based type of material. I've never looked inside one. Okay, so if you can see here, I've got a mark. I didn't mention that, but I put a little marker in there where I could see there was like a little lip going around so that I knew how far that went on. Okay, so I'll probably reinstall this and just make it a little bit more snug, but I can see that we're now at that point. Okay, so it's basically home, and then we're going to go ahead with the bolt and torque it to 135. Okay, yeah, so I think we're done with the install tool. Let's call that good. And we can return that and get our money back. So that's cool. Just have to pick up all the pieces. Okay. Now, on one hand, you don't want this to come out. On the other hand, you want a good torque reading. So I guess it's up to you on if you want to use, you know, some type of lube on that bolt to make sure you're getting a good torque reading. But I'm going to go ahead and run her in dry. I don't anticipate any problems. So that's just how I'm going to do it. You see that bolt really doesn't have a ton of engagement, so I'm going to switch to the socket now and grab the torque wrench. And in this case, we're going to be going to a big number. So might as well crank this thing up a bit. See what that's like. Okay, well, it is pushing it on more. I guess we could have gone on more with the tool. All right, so that was 60. And let's run it up about, we'll go up to 90. I'm gonna have to put the pin in the stand. Okay, there's another lesson. Luckily I have that right next door here. Pins in the stand. Let's get after it again. Okay, 90. And let's go the rest of the way, I guess. 135. Okay, there's 130. 135. That's a lot. Bingo. Okay. 135. And we are done. All right. Well, thanks for that. We'll get after this again, maybe in a week. I'd like to make a little progress here and there. And I think we're going to do the oil pan next. So I'll be cleaning up, painting a few more bolts. And then we're going to put on that cool gold oil pan. Oh, maybe I should paint that too. I don't know. I have one gold thing on the engine. All right. Well, over and out. Soup.